More insights from women leaders at work. This female executive is at the forefront of one of the country's largest mobile tech companies. We speak now to Grab country head, Grace Vera Cruz, on The Final Word. Grace, great to have you with us. Before Grab, you were with a Philippine-based investment company, and you've also held key positions in McKinsey & Company, CLSA Exchange Capital, and Shell. What made you decide to take on the Grab challenge?
Hi, Rico. Good evening. It's really, nabentahan ako ng mission ng Grab, which is to drive Southeast Asia forward and empower our everyday entrepreneurs. Iba talaga when you hear Anthony Tan speaking about the mission, speaking about what we can do for our constituents and for our stakeholders. Mapapabilib ka talaga and mapapabuy-in ka talaga in terms of what we're doing and how we're doing it.
You know, I've spoken with Anthony Tan a few times. If many of our viewers do not know who is Anthony Tan, he's a chief executive and co-founder of Grab. You know, Grab is now like a household word in the Philippines. Grab this, grab that, grab food, grab shopping. What was his advice to you, Grace, when you joined the group?
You know, the first day I joined Grab, he called me.
Mm-hmm.
He called me on my phone and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this guy gonna tell me today? And he just said one thing. He said, Grace, make sure you keep your ears to the ground. Make sure you talk to our drivers, our delivery partners, our customers, our consumers, our merchants, grabbers in the country. Make sure you talk to them and understand what it is they're saying. Listen and listen intently so that you can serve them well. That's all he said. And I was like, okay, boss, like that's really great advice.
You know, Grace, I was reading an article. You joined Grab in October of 2020, and you only decided to talk to the media 1 year later. What has been your most challenging event so far since joining Grab?
So, you know, I've had to learn the business. It's new to me, like having my own, leading the company, an operating company, having my own P&L, and coming from a very different industry, right? Finance, this logistics, delivery, we're in transport. It's very new to me, and I wanted to make sure that I learned the business before I speak to others about it. Mm-hmm. So that was the reason why there was a lag in terms of why, you know, it took a while. The pandemic has been very tough for us. So typically, you wouldn't imagine it, right? But actually, the pandemic, at one point in the pandemic, our transport business was shut down. And in different points throughout the last 2 years, there was, you know, like lower demand, higher demand, depending on what alert level we're in as a country. And that was pretty difficult because the operations had to change depending on what alert level we're in. It was also very challenging because we look at our drivers' earnings, how much our delivery partners and our drivers bring home to their families every day. And the volatility that we've experienced over the last 2 years has made us more empathetic to their plight and more bought into the mission of making sure that the livelihoods they earn from Grab is sustainable. And that's something that really inspires us to go to work hard every day.
And looking back to your educational background, you graduated from the University of the Philippines, and after that, you completed your master's at the London Business School. I'm just quite curious, why didn't you decide to stay overseas? You know, the job prospects abroad are enormous, especially with your kind of background.
I did work overseas for a while, Rico, but I didn't stay there. I decided to come home for a few reasons. I was working about 16 hours a day, at least, when I was in consulting. And I thought to myself, you know what, if I put in the same amount of effort to bring forward Filipino companies, then I may make a difference. The UP education, you know, like I think it's UP that builds that into your psyche. Serving and giving back to the Philippines is something that's very, very close to my heart. My family, most of my family members are still here, and we're really working together to bring the Philippines forward, something that inspires me every day. And I really encourage a lot of my friends who are still overseas to come home and help bring the country forward.
A lot of talent, Filipino talent overseas, who can basically transfer best practices to the country. You are a role model for gender equality and women empowerment. What is your advice to women who are considering a career in the logistics delivery business and succeed in the corporate world like yourself?
A few things. I think the first thing is no fear. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to question. Do not be afraid to ask. Do not be afraid to dream and aspire for the top role. I think that's something that we have to encourage more women to do. Like the career doesn't need to stop when you have children, or if you also want to have a family life. It's not impossible to have a career that's for you. So I would say that's the first. Do not be afraid to dream big and ask the good questions or call out the good things, right? So that's number one. I think the second one is, creating your own truths. I don't believe in like this is a man's job or I don't believe in that. I believe that, all the jobs are open for any gender, whether you're a woman, you're a man, LGBTQ. I think that it's up to you to really go for it. And so I encourage everybody to create your own truths and live those truths as you go through your professional life. I think the third one is, find mentors. I've benefited a lot from having mentors that have spent time with me throughout my career. I talk to them about my challenges and my wins and my losses. And, they give me the best advice every single time. And so I'd encourage to find them, for everybody to find them as soon as they can.
Grace, thank you so much for inspiring us all. Thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word.
Thank
Grab
you, Rico.
Country Head, Grace Vera Cruz.